the 13th day of Adar, and it's Ta'anit Esther, fast day. And it's also the 6th of March. One small word about why it's called the Fast of Esther. We know that when the events actually unfolded in Persia, the day on which they fasted was the 2nd day of Passover. It wasn't like now that we fast on the 13th of Adar. It was actually a year earlier on the 2nd day of Passover, and because of that, by the way, actually the 2nd day of Passover was when Esther invited Achashverosh and Haman to her banquet, and so the time that they fasted was actually the 3 days before. So they fasted that year on Passover. It's a very important thing to know. In any case, why is it called the Fast of Esther? So this was all. There's all kinds of questions. The simple reason, of course, is because the scroll that we read is called the Scroll of Esther. And so the day before, we commemorate not that fast, really. Actually, we're commemorating, well, I'll say it like this. There's two options. We're either commemorating that fast, it was the 3 days before Esther's banquet, a year before, or, and this is something that was hit upon, I think, in later years. I don't think it was known until then. It's called the Fast of Esther because she did fast on the 13th of Adar. Why? She was the only person in the world who fasted on the 13th of Adar. The explanation is that on the 13th of Adar was the day on which they fought the anti-Semites in that generation. And when you fight, you're not allowed to fast. On the other hand, there is a halacha that whoever is not fighting, whoever is not in the battle, needs to fast as a spiritual help for those who are battling. So it turns out that the only Jew in the world who at that time was not fasting because she wasn't in the battlefield was Esther. So on the 13th of Adar, that's another explanation that this is called the Fast of Esther because she was the only one who fasted. So that's just about something about the fast day today. It's actually, in that sense, it's a different, if there are two different options. If it's the fast that they were beseeching God to bring Esther victory in the sense that Haman his plot would be unraveled, so then it's like a regular fast day. But if this is like a fast day because of the war that they fought, and that we're fasting, and actually that is part of what it says in the Megillah, Divrei Tzomot v'Ta'anitam, it could be that it's dafka related to the fast day because of the war, then this is a different fast day than all the other fast days that we have. This is actually a fast day where we're becoming stronger. It's not a fast day that's trying to weaken us in that sense. It's a fast day that's trying to strengthen the Jewish people in general as in battling against our enemies. So that's one small thing. What I wanted to talk about yesterday. So we're in yesterday was the first reading of Tissa. And in the first reading of Tissa, we hear about one last vessel of the tabernacle that we haven't learned about until now. And so I'm talking about Exodus 30, verse 17. And I'll read it in English. God spoke to Moses, saying, "You shall have the artisans make a copper laver." A laver is basically a washing basin, and it's copper base for washing. You shall place it between the tent of meeting and the outer altar. You shall put water in it. Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and feet from it. They shall wash with water before they enter the tent of meeting, thus meaning to perform their regular tasks, their avoda, and thus they will not die. So whenever they approach the outer altar to serve, to burn a fire offering to God, they shall first wash their hands and feet, and thus they will not die. The washing basin, the kiyol, it's called a kiyol, and its kano, and its base, are very essential vessels, and it's usually not clear exactly what their purpose is. The simple purpose is that they remove impurity from the hands and feet of the priests before they go to serve in the tabernacle. But the Arizal based on already the Tikkunei Zohar, he tells us that the washing basin and its foundation and what it's rested on, what held it up, were both made of copper, and they correspond to the two sfirot called Netzach and Hod, or victory and acknowledgement. I just want to say that there's so much, just one point out of it. Victory and acknowledgement, in terms of their inner experience in the psyche, what they represent is trust or confidence. And not just trust and confidence in God, but trust and confidence in God which turns into self-confidence, into the ability of the person to have confidence in what they're doing, in being able to fulfill what they envision is their role in the world. There's a very important thing about confidence. A person cannot have confidence in God and therefore cannot have confidence in themselves unless they are cleansed. And what's the idea here? There's a verse that King David says, I will wash my hands cleanly. Erchatz benikayon kapai. I will wash my hands in the sense that they'll be free of any sins. What kind of sins do people do with their hands? Well, the most important thing that we do with our hands is, like when we shake hands, is all the work that we do and all the transactions that we carry out. We give money, we take money. If the hands are not cleansed, meaning that the person is not clean in all his interactions, in all his transactions, it blemishes his ability to have confidence in God, that God is with him. Even if it's subconscious, even if he's not aware of it. So says King David, Erchatz benikayon kapai v'asoveva mizbachacha Hashem. I will cleanse my hands and wash them, and then I will encircle your altar. The sages say about this verse, and this is especially explained deeply in Mesilat Yesharim from the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. He writes this, that the foundation of being able to pursue the things that we want in this world is to be able to reach that state that David had of cleansing his hands in order to encircle the altar, just like the priests did. That the priests would cleanse their hands and then they would serve on the altar, they would serve in the sanctuary. The word to cleanse, this is an amazing thing. To cleanse, lirchotz, even the what you do with the basin is lerachatza. That word in Aramaic means to have trust. Bei ana rachitz, like we say in before we bring the ark, the Torah scroll out of the ark. Bei ana rachitz, I trust, I have confidence in him. Lirchotz is in Hebrew to wash, but in Aramaic is like the subconscious language of Hebrew. It reveals to us some of the things that we're not aware of when we speak in Hebrew. And so what's hiding behind the act of cleansing one's hands, and making sure that all of one's transactions are clean, that that whatever one shook on, whatever we give our word on is clean, that allows us to have trust. And what does trust mean? Trust means that I can go pursue my goals, and I know that God is with me. So that is a tremendous thing that's learned. Again, there's so much to say about the washing basin and these two sfirot, victory and acknowledgement. One is active confidence, the other is passive confidence. But what they all boil down to in the end is that the thing that we need the most in order to have confidence in life is to have clean hands. Everything that we do with our hands should be clean. So that was from yesterday's Torah reading, and I want to say something about today's, since we are approaching Purim. The sages say something pretty amazing about today's Torah reading. Let me read it to you. It's from the Talmud in the tractate Chulin, and page folio 139, side B. And they ask like this: from where in the Torah can we find an allusion to Esther? And so the sages say, and I will hide my face on that day for all the evil which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned to other gods. It's a verse in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy. And then they ask, well, that's not connected to our parsha, but they also ask, from where in the Torah can we find an allusion to Mordechai, the other hero of Purim? And the answer that they give is from our Torah reading today, the second reading of Tissa. Oh, I'm sorry, it's also from the first reading. I thought it was in the second reading, but it's from the first reading. And it says like this: God then spoke to Moses, and he told him, you shall take for yourself choice spices, 500 of pure myrrh, of fragrant cinnamon, half portions, each amounting to 250 of aromatic cane. The words in Hebrew is V'ata kach lecha besamim rosh mar dror, or mor dror, depending on how you pronounce it. Mor is myrrh, and dror is free-running myrrh. Where do you get myrrh from? Myrrh basically is what people today call musk. Musk is something that comes out of the deer's sweat glands, actually, and it collects underneath their neck. And it's a pheromone. It's meant to attract. That's why they make musk out of it. But it can also be used for other spices as well. And this went into the special spices that were used to anoint the tabernacle and everything in it. So this word, mardro, the sages say like this. So from where in the Torah can we find an allusion to the greatness bestowed upon Mordechai? And they say, as it is written, and you shall also take the chief spices or choice spices of flowing myrrh, mordro, flowing myrrh, meaning free-flowing myrrh. And we translate mordro into Aramaic as miradakia. Miradakia, which is almost the same as Mordechai. You can see in the Unklus on it that Unklus translates Ve'at savlach besamin reisha Meiradachia, and Meiradachia is Mordechai. Now this is an amazing thing that Mordechai is mentioned in relation to the spices. Why is it especially connected to spices? Well, let's look at this word, mordro. Mor, we said, is myrrh, but the value of mor, mem reish, is just 240. That is exactly the value of Amalek. Amalek is 240 also. Dror means free-flowing, or to say it another way, free of. Mordechai made us free of Mor, free of Amalek. That's the tremendous allusion in the Torah to Mordechai. Now, what was this all about? Mordechai is considered to be an extension, one of the extensions of Moses into every generation. In every generation, Moses reappears as the tzaddik of the generation. In that generation, it was obviously Mordechai. Amazingly, when we add, well, it even says here, and you shall take for you these choice spices. It's like Moses is taking Mordro, he's taking Mordechai to be with him. He's saying, you and I are connected. We have a custom that all throughout Purim, and this is what you're going to have to suffer through the next few days, we do a lot of gematriot to make up for all the rest of the year. So everybody knows that Arur Haman equals Baruch Mordechai, that cursed is Haman is equal to blessed is Mordechai. But this is even more beautiful. Then Moshe plus Mordechai equals 619. That's also the value of Haman ben Amdata Ha'agagi. It's exactly the value of Haman's full name. You need to have Moshe and Mordechai together to vanquish Haman, and also to, in Purim, get to the same concept, that Moshe and Mordechai are equal to Haman ben Amdata Agagi. And God willing, we'll see more tomorrow, and you'll have to suffer through a lot more Gematrot, I think.
Thank you, Rabbi. Happy Purim.
Purim Sameach. Should have an easy fast, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
An easy fast, and tonight wonderful Megillah reading, and tomorrow a great feast, and so on. And especially the Persians have a special cause to celebrate Purim. It all happened in Persia. And one last thing is you should know there were many Purims. there's Purim Saloniki, and there's Purim in Italy in one place, and in Spain. They tried to make a lot of Purims. The only one that stuck and that the entire Jewish people accepted was the one that happened in Persia.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.